Si Pangulong Marcos at ang Asian Development Bank year 1966. Ang picture na ito ay picture ni President Ferdinand E. Marcos nang kanyang ibigay ang susi kay Takeshi Watanabe, ang Japanese na unang naging pangulo ng Asian Development Bank na itinatag noong December 19, 1966 kung saan Manila ang napiling maging headquarters office nito at si Pangulong Marcos ang guest speaker. Sa speech ni Pangulong Marcos sa inauguration ng Asian Development Bank, sinabi niya ang mga katagang ito.
The Filipino people are proud to share with you on our native soil this historic moment in the life of modern Asia. The inauguration of the Asian Development Bank will surely be remembered as one of the most auspicious events in the history of the region. None can doubt its relevance to the mighty stirring towards a new life of progress and dignity in this oldest of continents. And I shall add that this event is auspicious not only for the people of Asia, but also for the peace of the world. For the Philippines, the creation of the Asian Development Bank is especially significant. The choice of the Philippines as the permanent site of the bank enhanced the national prestige. It is a recognition of the stability of our political structure, the soundness of our social and economic institutions, and the ability of our people. We take pride in having played an important role in the organization of the bank, and in having been chosen as the host country for its offices. Our pride must be tempered, however, with the awareness that our participation, and the honor and recognition accorded our country carries with it certain responsibilities. We shall meet these responsibilities.
Sinabi ni Pangulong Marcos na karangalan sa kanya na isa siya sa nag-organize ng pagtatayo ng Asian Development Bank ADB upang matustusan ang pangangailangan ng mga bansa sa Timog Silangang Asya, kasama ang Pilipinas. Itinatag ang ADB upang mag-produce ng collateral loans o pautang base sa collateral na magsisilbing developmental funds upang makatulong sa pag-develop hindi lang ng bansang Pilipinas kundi ng lahat ng mga bansa na kabilang sa nag-pool ng mga resources nila. In short, bawat bansa, kasama ang Pilipinas sa naglagay ng mga gold reserves na silang nagiging basis upang makapag-produce ang bangko ng mga pondo in the form of loans para makatulong sa pag-unlad ng bawat bansa. Let us quote.
To pool together our resources for development is undoubtedly a great act of maturity and wisdom. This is not only because most Asian countries lack the capital and the means of development. We also recognize the potential complementarities in our different development programs which can be approached so as to lessen costs and increase the benefits available to the nations concerned.
Kabilang kaya ang ilang mga gold assets ni Pangulong Marcos noong 1966 ang naka-pooled dito at nagsilbing collateral guarantee sa mga loans na ito. Diyos lang at ang bangko ang nakakaalam. Sinabi pa ni Pangulong Marcos sa kanyang speech sa pagtatag ng ADB.
But I believe that in the long run the most lasting effect of this bank would be moral, in the sense that it would help spark in all member countries a new spirit of change. Of being able to alter their own environments to make them serve the aims of a better and fuller life in dignity and freedom. And it is in this sense that the Asian Development Bank in the end enters the confluence of patriotic ideas associated with the great humanitarian heroes of Asia.
Hindi man niya direktang sinabi, subalit maliwanag na isa mismo siya, si Pangulong Marcos, sa kanyang tinutukoy na great humanitarian heroes of Asia. Dahil sa tingin natin ay kung hindi siya naglagak ng mga gold reserves sa Asian Development Bank para sa Pilipinas, hindi maaaring mareleasan ng collateral loans for development funds ang bansa. Pero the mere fact na si Marcos ang isa sa nanguna sa pag-organize ng Asian Development Bank na unang itinayo mismo sa ating bansa and the mere fact na mismong guest speaker pa siya sa inauguration ng ADB ay nagpapatunay ng napakataas na respeto ng mga bansa sa Southeast Asia kay Pangulong Marcos. Ang ADB ay isa rin sa mga bangkong naglabas ng pondo pang-ayuda sa mamamayang Pilipino noong year 2020. Ayon sa website ng ADB, inapprove nila ang $1.5 billion na loan para tulungan ang gobyerno na magkaroon ng pondo pang-ayuda sa mga tao habang nasa panahon pa tayo ng pandemya.
Manila, Philippines, the 24th of April 2020, the Asian Development Bank (ADB) has approved a $1.5 billion loan to help the Philippine government fund its novel coronavirus disease (COVID-19) response program and strengthen the country's healthcare system in its fight against the pandemic. This assistance is our largest budget support loan to the Philippines ever and reflects our strong commitment to providing cornerstone assistance swiftly and effectively to help the country mitigate the pandemic's devastating impact on Filipinos, particularly the poor and vulnerable, including women, said ADB President Masatsugu Asakawa. ADB is committed to achieving a prosperous, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable Asia and the Pacific, while sustaining its efforts to eradicate extreme poverty. Established in 1966, it is owned by 68 members, 49 from the region.
Matatandaan na binatikos ni Senator Amy Marcos ang Secretary ng Department of Finance of Duterte Administration na miyembro ng gabinete ni Cory noon nang kumontra ito sa pag-loan ng gobyerno para makapagbigay ng ayuda sa mga Pilipino during lockdowns. Ayon kay Amy, bakit daw ba nagtitipid ang gobyerno samantalang napakalaki naman ang pera natin? Sinabi niya ito sapagkat ang Department of Finance ang nagmamanage ng mga financial resources ng Philippine government, kabilang ang mga loan management at policy formulation ukol sa pananalapi. Alam ni Amy Marcos na hindi problemado ang gobyerno sa paghahanap ng pondo dahil isa ang ADB na nandyan at nag-exist para suportahan ang pangangailangan ng bansa lalo na sa mga national emergency situations. Kayang maglabas ng ADB ng loans, o pautang o maski, grants, o pabigay upang sustentuhan ang Pilipinas bilang first beneficiary member ng ADB. Walang kaalam-alam ang maraming mga Pilipino na matagal na silang nakikinabang sa mga katas ng kabayanihan at ng kayamanan ni Pangulong Marcos. Ang presidente na tunay na mapagmalasakit sa kanyang mamamayan, na nag-set up in advance ng mga pasilidad at mga institusyon tulad ng Asian Development Bank upang makinabang ang maraming mga bansa lalo na ang kanyang mga kababayang Pilipino sa mga pondong kayang ilabas ng bangkong ito na ginagarantiyahan ng kanyang mga ginto. Kaya kailangang magising na ang marami pa nating mga kababayan. Si Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. ay kakampi natin at hindi kalaban. Ang Marcos family ay talagang regalo ng Panginoon sa bansang Pilipinas, kaya naman galit na galit at inggit na inggit ang mga demonyo sa kanila, dahil sila ay mabuting binhi o lahi na nag-iimpluwensya ng kabutihan sa kanilang tinubo ang lupa. Itong nakaraang June 13, 2022, 2 linggo bago ang inaugurasyon ni President-elect Ferdinand Bongbong Romualdez Marcos Jr. bilang ika-17 Pangulo ng Pilipinas, nag-courtesy call ang kasalukuyang presidente ng Asian Development Bank na si Masatsugu Asakawa sa kanyang campaign headquarters sa Mandaluyong City. Sa kanilang pag-uusap, nangako ang ADB na makikipagtulungan ito sa Bagong Marcos administration sa lahat ng mga projects nito lalo na sa infrastruktura. Ayon pa kay Asakawa,
the ADB is working closely with the government, development partners, and the private sector to support infra investment, including projects under the Build program, promote sustainable agri-development and food security, and invest in Filipinos' welfare. As we prepare our next country partnership strategy for 2024-29, we will be exploring opportunities with the incoming admin's priorities on climate change action to support a resilient and green economic recovery, climate-smart transportation, and continuing investments in education, vocational skills training, employment programs, health promotion, and social protection. We are grateful for the government and the Filipino people for hosting the ADB headquarters for more than 5 decades and supporting our efforts across the Asia and Pacific region. I assured President-elect Marcos of ADB's strong commitment to supporting his administration's development priorities.
Narito ang kabuuan ng speech ni Pangulong Marcos sa inaugurasyon at grand opening ng Asian Development Bank sa Manila noong 1966. Paki-share ang video na ito sa lahat upang marami pa ang makaalam ng katotohanan. Huwag rin kalimutang mag-subscribe sa ating channel at pindutin rin ang notification bell upang palagi kayong updated sa mga ino-upload nating mga videos. Maraming salamat po.
Speech of His Excellency Ferdinand E. Marcos, President of the Philippines on the inauguration of Asian Development Bank. Delivered in Makati, Rizal, December 19, 1966. The ADB, cornerstone of a new life in Asia. The Filipino people are proud to share with you on our native soil this historic moment in the life of modern Asia. The inauguration of the Asian Development Bank will surely be remembered as one of the most auspicious events in the history of the region. None can doubt its relevance to the mighty stirring towards a new life of progress and dignity in this oldest of continents. And I shall add that this event is auspicious not only for the people of Asia, but also for the peace of the world. For the Philippines, the creation of the Asian Development Bank is specially significant. The choice of the Philippines as the permanent site of the bank enhanced the national prestige. It is a recognition of the stability of our political structure, the soundness of our social and economic institutions, and the ability of our people. We take pride in having played an important role in the organization of the bank, and in having been chosen as the host country for its offices. Our pride must be tempered, however, with the awareness that our participation, and the honor and recognition accorded our country carries with it certain responsibilities. We shall meet these responsibilities. An inspired vision come true. The opening of the ADB proves that the forces working for cooperation and fraternity between nations should never be underestimated. The ADB only yesterday was but an inspired vision. Today, we are inaugurating the bank. We are giving the world the first concrete manifestation of regional economic cooperation in Asia. That such can already be done in the world's vastest and least homogeneous region complements the maturity and open-mindedness of the Asian nations. But it is also a tribute to the perfectibility of human cooperation in general, in spite of the vast differences that separate us culturally and politically. Commitment against poverty, ignorance and disease. But even with their prophetic insights, none of the Asian visionaries could foretell that in a few decades this great regional project, the Asian Development Bank, could already materialize. We also know that the obligation of developed nations to help the less developed nations in their own development is a relatively new and revolutionary idea in history. We know, however, the proximate causes of the success of this great idea of the ADB. We know the ADB could rise today only because the ground had been well prepared for it during the past 18 years of the life of the ICAFE. This commission of the United Nations brought together Asian governments closer to each other than anything had done before. In this regard, we are obliged to cite Mr. Union, Secretary General of the ICAFE, who has probably done as much as any other man to bring forth the Asian Development Bank. This day marks the beginning of a new era in the solidarity of the region. The interest and participation in this new institution of countries outside the ICAFE region is an indubitable proof of the vision and statesmanship of leading countries outside this continent. The list of member countries suggests that the Asian Development Bank is not a mere regional bank that its name might imply. Its membership, covering 19 countries within the ICAFE region and 12 non-regional ones, in fact constitutes the biggest difference from other similar organizations. They are Afghanistan, Australia, Cambodia, Ceylon, Nationalist China, India, Iran, Japan, Korea, Laos, Malaysia, Nepal, New Zealand, Pakistan, the Philippines, Singapore, South Vietnam, Thailand and West Samoa. The non-regional member countries are Austria, Belgium, Canada, Denmark, Finland, West Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, Norway, United Kingdom, United States and Sweden. The mobilization of outside capital for development of Asian economy makes the bank a unique institution. It may not be inappropriate, therefore, as someone has suggested, to call it a sort of World Bank for Asia. Asia, with more than half the world population and a steady trend of population growth, is at the very center of the world crisis. While the crisis has various visible manifestations, what causes the most concern is the failure of agriculture to satisfy human needs. Looking ahead, the race between agricultural output and population is assuming formidable dimensions. We Asians are, therefore, particularly happy about the keen interest shown by the countries outside the ICAFE region to help foster economic growth and cooperation in the region of Asia and the Far East and contribute to the acceleration of the process of economic development of the developing countries in the region. Allow me to congratulate the members of the Board of Directors. Cornelio Balmaceda, Philippines; Yongkyu Chim, Korea; Masaru Fukuda, Japan; J. M. Garland, Australia; Ng Kam Po, Malaysia; PVR Rao, India; Ko Bian Tai, Indonesia; Helmut Abramowski, West Germany; W. K. Wardrober, Canada; and Bernard Zagoran, United States. At this juncture, I should like to congratulate the Board of Governors of the Asian Development Bank for taking a very wise, healthy and practical step in inviting other members and associate members of ICAFE and other non-regional developed countries which are members of the United Nations or any of its specialized agencies, that have not yet joined the bank, to join it. I am aware that the bank will, at this initial stage of its existence, have to face and solve some difficult problems, such as the formulation of policies concerning loans, investment, guarantees and other related problems, not to mention the problems of administration and appointing the right people to the right positions and getting them from as many member countries as possible. I have no doubt in my mind that these problems will be solved in no time. The Board of Governors did well in entrusting the management of the bank to Mr. Takeshi Watanabe. His qualifications, background and experience eminently fit him for his new position. What will make the burden of Mr. Watanabe lighter is the fact that he has a board composed of knowledgeable men and experts in their own fields. I have great hopes that the bank will be a most powerful influence in stimulating economic and social development in this region. But the most important efforts in this direction must come, not from outside the region but from within. Progress is not merely a matter of advice and encouragement or external aid. Real progress can only result from actions within the boundaries of Asia herself, and it is for us Asians to work together for our common good. Potential complementarities. To pool together our resources for development is undoubtedly a great act of maturity and wisdom. This is not only because most Asian countries lack the capital and the means of development. We also recognize the potential complementarities in our different development programs which can be approached so as to lessen costs and increase the benefits available to the nations concerned. One of the major functions of the Asian Development Bank is to serve as a medium for bringing over investments from the highly developed countries to the developing countries of the region. In the case of the Philippines, alone, we have projected our need for foreign investments at more than 3.5 billion pesos over the next 3 years of a 4-year program period. The bank will also help redress the imbalance in foreign exchange prevailing in most Asian countries, estimated at from $600 million to $1 billion. This is the foreign exchange gap involved in economic modernization and the raising of productivity. Management competence. Because it will be mainly managed by Asians, and staffed by Asian experts, the ADB would be to orient itself to the peculiar needs and requirements of the Asian countries. It will help prepare technical studies and proposals for loans among the member countries or governments. I can see a salutary effect arising from this. There will be pressure on member governments to scrutinize more closely and rigorously their own development projects to qualify for assistance, and therefore to raise the level of their own planning and management competence. But I believe that in the long run the most lasting effect of this bank would be moral, in the sense that it would help spark in all member countries a new spirit of change, of being able to alter their own environments to make them serve the aims of a better and fuller life in dignity and freedom. And it is in this sense that the Asian Development Bank in the end enters the confluence of patriotic ideas associated with the great humanitarian heroes of Asia. Regional cooperation. A necessity. We must at last face the truth that there is no choice for our countries except to cooperate. The World Bank has given Southeast Asia only 5.3% of all loans. The per capita loans from the World Bank on a regional basis are $2.80 to Asia, $3.04 to Africa and $4.20 to Europe. The per capita foreign aid to Southeast Asia is only $2.50 while it is $5.90 to Africa and $5 to Latin America. The economic development of the Western nations of Japan took place under different historical conditions when capitalism was in its primitive and notorious stage and completely indifferent to the human wreckage that it left in its wake. Today, Most of our countries, irrespective of our stages of development and political beliefs, are signatories to covenants and conventions under the United Nations which bind us to accord to workers the freedom of organization and collective bargaining and the protection of various labor laws. As I have told the Asian Labor Ministers' Conference just ended in Manila, the Asian nations today are in the position of being required to wage an industrial revolution without exploitation. No nation today is permitted to suspend human rights in deference to an urgent period of economic development. The dilemma of modern development in Asia is that it must be pursued hand in hand with the welfare of the poorest people. Implied in this is the renunciation of drastic methods of capital accumulation and formation which served the Western Industrial Revolution so well. Because of this, the Asian countries must turn to each other and to the developed countries of the West for the additional capital they need for their development. Cooperation, therefore, is no longer optional, when one thinks in broad terms, but a necessity imposed upon our countries by the common objective of development. Surpassing the limits of peace. The recognition of this necessity is an act of maturity and wisdom. And I am glad that the non-regional members of the ADB, representing the developed West, are also taking part in this undertaking, ready to share with Asia the experience and the capacities that are the sources of their own development. It is my fond hope that other ECAFE countries such as the Soviet Union will now come into the bank, or at least participate in the development of Asia through the special fund of the bank. This event is a hopeful sign that once the energies of nations are directed towards peace and progress, the old narrow limits of possible attainment are soon surpassed. The inauguration of the ADB should boost the morale of all who believe in world peace and brotherhood. Considering that the tensions in Asia remain the gravest menace to world peace, the opening of this great bank directed to the deepest causes of such tensions, mass poverty, ignorance and disease, becomes all the more encouraging and reassuring for mankind. In conclusion, may I say to the men behind this bank, congratulations and best wishes as you go forth on your historic mission of building a better life for the peoples of Asia.